Try to force yourself to remember when this criminal evil fucker was running for president, where he said he would protect Medicare and Social Security, that he would make sure that those two taxpayer-funded programs, I just can't call them entitlements because that gives the impression that somebody's getting something for nothing, which is horseshit. But when he campaigned, the lying prick, on protecting Medicare and Social Security, that was the sop that he threw to the older Christians, the ones who might not want to move into a Christian rest home when they get older and realize they didn't plan their financial lives sufficiently. So he promised, of course I never touched that. Well, in Davos the other day, he was asked by CNBC whether entitlements, so-called, Medicare and Social Security, would ever be on his plate, ready for him to cut up. He responded, quote, "At some point they will be," end quote. This arrogant fuck. He added, "We have tremendous growth. We're going to have tremendous growth. This next year, it'll be toward the end of the year. The growth is going to be incredible. And at the right time, we will take a look at that because we will have incredible growth." This inarticulate fuck, he ought to be impeached just for that. Asked by CNBC whether he was willing to do some of the things, this quoting MSNBC or CNBC, "Would you be willing to do some of the things that you said you wouldn't do in the past, though, in terms of Medicare?" Trump, "We're going to look. I mean, we've never had growth like this. We're having incredible growth. We never had a consumer that was taking in through different means over $10,000 a family." What the fuck does that mean? Now, according to CNN, during the campaign, this criminal, evil fuck said he wouldn't have to touch Social Security because his plan to boost economic growth to at least 4%, I think he said 6%, would take care of the entitlements' long-term problems. Social Security, of course, is one of the most popular government programs across party lines. Everybody likes Social Security, right? And Medicare. The nearest thing we have to a social safety net, even though the combination of Social Security and Medicare is not enough. Medicare covers 80% of your medical bills. Social Security, if you had a job that paid you an average equivalent of maybe $40,000 or $50,000 a year, your Social Security, and depending on what your deductions were and how much you paid in, your Social Security will probably not be enough. Most undoubtedly will not be enough to pay for everything that you're going to need when you turn 65, unless you have other forms of income. But it's something. It's the nearest thing we have to a humanistic approach, an ethical approach, a moral approach to taking care of each other when we become either too old to continue to work for the capitalist monster or when we need medical care. And the capitalist monster that controls medical programs in this country or healthcare programs, that capitalist monster has to be fed more and more and more every fucking year. So the issue is sure to be a top political issue in the 2020 general election. Maybe not. And it's even coming out in the Democratic primary as a talking point, as you're well aware, Most recently, Bernie Sanders, who has pushed Medicare for all now for what, 10 years, said he wants to expand Social Security benefits. And he targeted one of his opponents, former Vice President Joe Biden's record. In the 80s and 90s, many high-ranking Democrats, including Biden, sought to signal their seriousness about reducing the federal deficit by expressing a willingness to negotiate with the Republicans over plans to slow Social Security's growth or raise the retirement age. Barack Obama made an offer to the Republicans, and because they're racist pig fuckers, they didn't take his offer, but the offer that Obama made would have radically changed Social Security and Medicare. But the Republicans were blinded by their racist horse shit, so they didn't go for it. Right? I just sometimes don't believe the shit that I talk about on this podcast. The two major assistance programs that not just old people, I mean, you don't have to be 65 or older to get benefits, Social Security, or Medicare's stepbrother, Medicaid. You don't have to be an old person to get that. There are all sorts of programs within Social Security that provide some kind of assistance. Not a lot, but enough, if not to keep the wolves away from the door, at least to confuse the wolves while you move someplace else maybe. But why would any politician want to take this away? Which is what all of them talk about, Democrats included at times. Because the capitalist meat machine demands it. The capitalist meat machine doesn't want anybody getting anything. They want everything to go to the top 1/10 of 1%, and what's left over go to the top 9/10 of 1% beneath the 1/10 of 1%. And the rest of us can just fucking beat on each other for the scraps that might fall off of these goddamn people's plates. Why do we put up with that? Oh, another one of my famous "why do we" questions, right? Fuck it. Chuck Schumer said yesterday that entitlement cuts are not something he would entertain. Schumer said, quote, "The president said in an interview yesterday in Davos that he will take a look at cutting Social Security and other entitlements after the 2020 election, and that it is actually," he said, "the easiest of all things. The easiest thing to do is to take away the support systems that old people, people with disabilities, young people who don't have a parent, all sorts of people receive benefits from." Trump doesn't give a fuck about that. He doesn't care about that. Fuck you. Trump was born as I forget her name, a former governor, Ann Richards, former governor of Texas, said about George W. Bush. He was born with a silver foot in his mouth. That's Trump. Hi, Truth Seekers. Mike Malloy here. As you know, we've switched formats and are now broadcast exclusively on the Progressive Voices Network. So that means you get fewer program interruptions, no corporate commercials, and lots of profanity. But our format change also means some of our radio listeners no longer hear the program. It's been a while since I mentioned our podcasts, so you may have forgotten that there is a way to listen to this program anytime you need a good dose of screaming. Visit MikeMalloy.com and subscribe to our podcasts. You have your choice. You can listen to the ranting with the audio podcast or listen and watch me lose control with a video podcast subscription. As a podcast subscriber, you can download the program to your mobile device and take me with you wherever you go. And if you have a friend who needs a dose of truth-seeking, you can give a gift subscription as well. That's MikeMalloy.com, and never miss a minute of the uncensored fun and frivolity.